revved up for this. Craig's coming back from the bathroom right now, so that's his third trip. It was about an hour before the Milwaukee Kickers majors were set to kick off against the Swiss national team a few days before the 1994 World Cup. The coach of the kicker majors at that time was one Craig Peltonen. Craig delivered his rousing David and Goliath speech before the game about a Division IV Italian team that beat AC Milan. Then he gave us our tactics. We weren't going to sit back. We weren't going to sit back and defend. We were going to go right out and play the way we always did. We were going to go right at those yodeling, cheese-eating, can't choose a language Swiss. No holding back. We warmed up great. We did everything Craig said. We were prepared. Then the whistle blew. And for those of you who don't know the result, well, let me tell you, we got our ass kicked. I mean, we really got crushed. I mean, it was bad. The final score was somewhere in double digits. In the second half, the Swiss gave us their keeper, and then they played with 10 players. So I never said this to Craig, but on behalf of everybody on that team, Craig, great pregame talk. I thought it was a roast. I apologize for everybody. Craig is not only known for his stirring pregame speeches and clever tactics, he is also known for his remarkable ability to take any tense or combustible situation and make it... his wife is already laughing. To take any tense or combustible situation and make it, how can I say this, so much worse. I mean, water coolers get kicked over, chairs go flying, really confusing and extremely provocative things are yelled at referees. In one of the first games I played for Craig back when I was U19, Craig stomped onto the field to confront the referee and follow him around and then calmly give the referee his point of view. There's more stories in this, but I will say in fairness to Craig, the referee was so bad that despite Craig following him around the field while the game was going on, he still didn't throw Craig out of the game. Sorry to the referees over here. And let me tell you another thing about Craig. It's not only his pregame speeches and clever game tactics and calming temperament, it's also his delicate, tailor-made subtlety when dealing with his players. And we got a table full of his players over there. Anybody who has heard, or anybody who has played for Craig has carefully heard him massage a player's fragile ego with motivating phrases such as, "Don't serve that ball because you're no good at it." Or, "Don't dribble because you're no good at it." Or the one he used on me, "Harry, you're really looking kind of fat." So one might ask why Craig asked me to speak on his behalf. Get ready. No. There's not much. I'm probably one of the only people who played for Craig and then I coached for Craig and for that matter is still friends with him. But seriously, why I really revel in mocking Craig. There are very few coaches I would rank in a class with Craig Peltonen. My first coaching job was at Marion with Craig when I was 23 years old. Craig assigned me to work with the goalies. I knew nothing about goalies except for they were the, big lazy guys who talked all the time and threw the ball back and forth. It's true. Come on, we did. But Craig showed me otherwise. Craig took me out to a field, and Craig started demoing all the goalkeeper drills. He was catching, he was grabbing crosses, he was diving, and I don't know how old he was at the time because he still looks the same. But he wasn't bad. Seriously, the guy wasn't bad. He broke down the technique, he showed me how to do it, how to teach it. The man can teach. One day, years later, I was out in a field with Craig hitting golf balls. My lifelong slice got solved in 5 minutes from Craig teaching me how to hit a golf ball. The man's a teacher. I coached for 2 years with Craig Peltonen, and I was constantly amazed by his ability to creatively teach the game of soccer. He started the women's program at Marion College, and the very first team had a few girls that never played the game before. And you'd think that would dishearten, as Sheila said, a guy who played for the national championship at Indiana. But it didn't. Craig had the same intensity with that team that he had with every team. In fact, he was so intent on making them soccer players that he forgot, one really simple thing, which is, tell them the rules. So the players would ask him questions in preseason. Craig would we'll get to that. We'll get to that. He's teaching them all these skills and getting them to do everything, and we think we got them, really where we want them. And the first scrimmage comes along, and the ball goes over our end line for a throw-in, or the ball goes over. I killed it. The ball goes over our end line for a goal kick, and one of our players runs back, grabs the ball, and comes up to the end line and takes a throw-in. And obviously, you don't take a throw-in from the end line. That same team, 4 years later, made the NAIA national tournament. And Craig had taken some kids who really never played before and made them that much better. I mean, it was unbelievable. Craig's practices are so Einsteinian that every player turns into an expert mathematician. There are more ways to get points in a Craig Peltonen practice than a 1980s arcade game. Okay, here are the rules. 2 touch in your own half, 3 in the opponent's, 1 point for a forward pass into grid 3, 2 points if you want to win the ball back before they make 4 passes. 3-person combos are worth 3 points. Weak-footed controls that result in 2-man combos in the attacking wide space are worth 4. Goals are worth 5, unless it's a head ball, that's 7. Bicycle kicks are 10. Any questions, anybody? Amazingly, as these guys can attest, eventually the players figure it out, and they're a ton better for it. And don't kid yourself. It isn't just complex and thoughtful practices, it's intensity. Craig has no problem invoking his inner Lombardi, though he's a Bears fan, unfortunately. Craig is invested in the moment emotionally and truly loves to watch the players succeed. Craig's wide grin and overwhelming joy at watching a player do something well is contagious. While he's had his moments where his temper gets the best of him, his love for his players and his love for the game is genuine. Craig truly loves the competition and what competition brings out in people. Maybe that's because Craig just loves to compete. In fact, competitively, Craig is really still like a little kid. While Craig would never say no to a few beers, after a game with the coaches, he would much rather be playing air hockey or foosball or pop-a-shot or skeet ball or 2-on-2 or soccer tennis or be on the golf course. The man just loves to figure out how to win a game, how to solve the problem of winning a game. And that's a lot of what makes him such a great coach. Craig analyzes the game of soccer, his teams, and his players with a microscope. There's no touch, movement, moment that does not get his scrutiny. His attentive eye and consistent critiques are unwavering in their intensity. I have seen few coaches who can provide as thoughtful a breakdown of a player's technique or performance than Craig. And for any player who has ever thought it was too much, Craig embodies what I would say is his greatest trait. He always points the microscope at himself. As a coach, and most importantly as a human being, Craig never lets himself off the hook. Craig is a great soccer coach. He's a great teacher at whatever he is asked to teach. But when Craig asked me to speak today, I said yes, not just because I'm honoring a man who is as good a teacher of the game of soccer as I know, but because I'm honoring a person who has never stopped being better and more self-reflective for reflected in all aspects of his life. I consider myself lucky to have played for Craig, to have coached with Craig, but I feel privileged to be inducting Craig today, and more than anything, to call Craig Peltonen my good friend. So, Craig Peltonen.